Dr. Harrison Peeples from Estill. Served as the 115th president of the South Carolina Medical Association during 1979 and 80. The interview is being conducted by Dr. Laurie Brown, Professor Emeritus of Anesthesiology, an honorary member of the State Medical Association, and it's in the President's Conference Room at the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston. Dr. Peeples, welcome to this interview.
Thank
I
you.
want to ask you a few questions now, and you tell us as much as you or as you like for the state archives, for your children and your grandchildren. Now, tell me first a little bit about where you were born and who your parents were. Just a little bit about the family of origin, if you will.
I'll be glad to. I was born in Hampton County, which is low country, South Carolina. It's about 100 miles from Charleston. My father was a practicing physician there who practiced 50 years. I was following him, and now I've been 50 years, so we've had 100 years in this real community. I'm married to Elizabeth Cleveland. We have 3 daughters. They are married. One of my daughters is a physician who practices dermatology in Greenville. Another daughter married Henry Lafitte, who is a banker in Allendale. And my younger daughter married a forester and real estate person in Estill. All of them, fortunately, have had at least master's degrees, and Patricia being a physician. My wife is the guiding star for the children, and that's a fortunate thing indeed.
And your wife was who? She was
Lady and Elizabeth Cleveland, and she was from that rural country area as well.
And your mother, Harrison, where did she come from?
She's English.
English.
She was English. She has a descendant. I'm a descendant of George Mason of Gunston Hall, who wrote the Virginia Bill of Rights, from which the Bill of Rights in the Constitution was copied by Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
They always
That's
and my father is German, and I have some Irish in my background too.
And you grew up in Hampton County.
Grew up in Hampton County, went to public schools there, attended the Citadel, and then went to the University of Louisville, College of Medicine, Louisville, Kentucky. Then I went to did postgraduate work and internships in Greenville, South Carolina. Did postgraduate work later in New York, and did general surgery and general medicine, obstetrics in low country where I'm living now for some 50 years.
Well, when you were in medical school or during your training, any particular professors or people who influenced you other than your family?
Well, I always have to say this about family life. When I started undergraduate school, my mother said if tuition is paid at the Citadel, she really had bars there. And then my dad said the same thing about that I would enter medicine, and they pay tuition there, so I never really made those choices on my own.
You didn't have to think much about what you were going to do.
I wouldn't, being at the Citadel was real, I think, basic for my background and my work the rest of my life. I went to the University of Louisville College of Medicine, and there were 2 people there who influenced me a good bit. One was John Walker Moore, who was the Dean College, and who happened to have been from South Carolina. So I immediately attached my wagon to his arm, and he got me a great deal.
Good. And then about choosing your field of medicine.
Well, I think that was pretty determined too, because I came back to practice with my father, and he was in general medicine.
Yeah.
Then he became ill shortly after I got back, I planned to do an OBGYN, had an OBGYN fellowship here at the university, but dropped out because of wartime and his skill level.
Well, just tell me a little bit about your medical career and sort of what you have done at Hampton and Canada. Just what kind of practice you had.
We, when I first came back to practice, we didn't have a hospital in the community. The county constructed one shortly after that, and I left the general practice for about a year, went to New York, and did surgery, and came back and did general practice, did general surgery and obstetrics in this small hospital. It was it now is a 68-bed hospital, but it was started smaller than that. But my primary work has been in family medicine, general medicine.
That's been a pretty satisfying field.
Very satisfying for me because I was doing the thing that I wanted to do, and enjoyed dealing with people.
Yeah.
Before the high-tech era, I guess a different had it been now than the original city. But I've been pleased to practice in the community. I think I developed a type of interrelationships with my patients that were life-lasting, really, and very, very beneficial to me. And I simply tried to return some of that to them.
You tell me about any grandchildren. Do you have any grandchildren?
I have 6
I'm
grandchildren.
surprised you didn't pull out a picture or something to show.
Well, I happen to have those. We have 6 grandchildren, 3 girls, 3 boys. And I found that our girls were real easy to raise. We've got the grandsons, and the biological difference is there. It's a little bit harder to manage boys than it is girls. They're all in school doing well.
Oh, that's it. Now, before you became president of the State Medical Association, how did you sort of get beginning in organized medicine? What brought you in that, and what interested you in medical affairs particularly? It's sort of difficult to answer that, but
well, I think I got involved after coming back and practicing. I always felt it was an obligation to go to a medical meeting, just as a matter of continuing education. Continuing education was not as on the forefront as it is today. I had a faculty person in Greenville, Dr. George Wilkinson, who was an internist, and he was chairman of the Board of Medical Examiners. And about 2 years after I came out, he called me one day. He said, I would like you to be on the Board of Medical Examiners, and I'm going to put your name up for that position. And he said, you have somebody down there nominate you. So I was talking to Dr. Preacher from Allendale, and then there's a lot I really would love to do this nomination. The day before he called, he said that he was ill and that he had called Dr. Wessel from Orangeburg, who was going to nominate me for this position. So at the time during the meeting, this nomination came up. Wessel didn't stand. His name was put in motion for nomination to this position, and he was elected. Afterwards, I talked to Dr. Gressett, who was president of the association, and I said, you fellas in Orangeburg got a real good thing going over there, joking. And he said, well, I know what you're talking about, but I've got something here I'd like for you to do. And so he said, we're going to start a political action committee in South Carolina. I'd like for you to be chairman of that. Well, as you remember, you got involved in that a good bit too. In those days, it was unheard of for a physician to be involved in politics almost.
it was.
You know, you were sort of degraded. And it was from that really that I got interested in organized medicine I think one of the reasons that I was primarily interested is to prove that being in politics was not necessarily a bad thing to do. And one of the prime supporters of getting Scout, as we named it,
Right.
off the ground was a guy named Murray Brown.
Oh.
So, and you were so one of the supporters of mine in my early days. I appreciate that.
Well, good. It was a lot of fun. You took a lot hard not to, but that was all right, I guess. You remember what SCAPO stood for?
The South Carolina Alliance for Political Action and Education.
Political Education Live.
And that's right.
Okay. I have a brochure here somewhere about them. Still SCAPO.
Yeah.
That's been later changed to
SOPAC,
South
South Carolina Political Action.
So that was quite some time before you became.
Well, yes, and then along with that, I was president of the South Carolina Academy of Physicians, kind of actually done. And it was really through that group that I was placed on the board of trustees at this medical university. The activities that going through at South Carolina Association, I served on many committees, was served on as vice president. Really, in my earliest appointment was vice president, and then I served on board of directors with delegates to the MA, and then from that to the presidency.
The vice president was in 1969, as I recall.
Yeah. That's right. Really early.
Yeah.
I thought it signed work then.
No. Were you going to mention that anything about receiving the 1977 Position of the Year Community Award?
Well, that kicked my memory.
I recall it.
Yeah.
That was a real honor, I thought. Now, how about some of your early experiences? You think of anything other than that before you started in your presidency? What were some of the issues back then?
Well, I think the thrust of, during the medical time, Mickey had developed, and the encroachment of government into medicine, and we thought then, was one reason why I did it. And there were many issues, some issues that we thought about, and issues that we have today, maldistribution positions, inadequate supply of physicians. Those are some practices that we've done some time with these.
Now, when you became president, what was your sort of your theme during that years president?
We adopted that aim to be a better health through education. That's one theme that was early. Now we all realize the need of preventive, the need of health education. And I think more and more we'll see more of that in the forefront. Because look at the diseases that threaten us today. So many of them are actually lifestyle, drugs, cigarettes, and then our school system, we've always had interest in trying to get schools to teach about health rather than just sex and that prevention of venereal disease, that sort of thing. But health should be taught in schools as a total unit, nutrition, whole phases of health, and I believe that this would be more necessary as medicine more and more expensive.
During that time, you appointed a commission or a group of people to look into that and to try to get more education in schools.
We had is that met with the State Board of Education, and we were very successful to get that find interest in health. There was minimum matter. There was a lot of opposition and population about teaching anything about health and sex, and so I think that's changed a lot.
That's changed. I believe how that commission, how it worked anywhere that came out.
Good health is a good living.
Living from the Medical Association. You know.
I think that's so true. I saw a committee now appointed by the government on basic health services. I think because of present day politics is because of being about excess costs in healthcare, ability for it. In those meetings, a lot of discussion is brought up. The fact that the individual is source of what can do by changing life. That's third on the front.
So that's where you, about the difference between medical care and care.
Right. You know, Medicare is like back in the days, you know, well,
Right. Yeah. Now, what else you want to tell me about Tone? Gary's present.
Well, some things that we were interested in, I think the organization structure of County Medical Association was very important. We had excellent people, but we didn't have the support system as well as we really needed to develop and do that. At the time I was the president, we got away from visits to the county hospital, the medical side, so we initiated that, so we tried to visit as many as could. We really kept out of the hospital here, and in solo practice, that's not very good.
You had something to do with changing the meeting, changing the sort of goals of the meeting, and education, more education for everybody.
Two things. The education aspect, one, the other really changed the format so that we didn't charge a fee for registration positions to encourage all branches of medicine to come have their meeting at one central spot rather than separate like the specialists working, and still don't have a registration fee and take this official. They all do together.
Okay, yeah, that's just about a sort of outcome of your goals, what you're trying to do during that year.
That
Essentially. Do you think state medical meetings are good now, or how you class anything?
Well, I think they're good because you get to, if for another reason, and the matter is so with it, and the scientific sessions are excellent. I think the time is more of a good people than was then trying to cut days on a big short this year. Most true.
Now, some of the other priorities you had was public relations and regulations.
Well, that was so essential because we had one committee we formed, was a committee with the lawyers.
Right.
We thought it was important at least look to because name on with the judge and his committee senator and so good first.
Now, mission of decisions. Was that, it was one of your goals, I would say, one of your priorities to try to solve that on hand.
Well, I still do that malnutrition. During time of presidency, the second medical issue was an issue, and it was being formed because of the maldistribution what considered shorter positions, and quite and that school being closed to to go to the second school, being a lot of that money to take to do. That's cool, but then bring things heard all actually, even with the instant positions, supply is great.
What's the answer to other people?
Well,
Working on for 30 years.
I think the administration is care of that. We're anticipating will develop, but I think they're talking now about managed care, and I think they'll involve the high institutes as well as the lesser healthcare facilities like small county hospitals and of course effort to that service. And with, I believe, you might get better distribution, also can better quality care, and less cost. Seems like it's not gone like it, but it's there. It's like that.
There are some of your thoughts. And one of your credit is essentially same place that a corridor to a low cost.
Right. Well, cost always been a sensitive thing, rural area, more sensitive than in the metro area. I think we just live with it a little earlier than I thought.
That too, can you have a oral side health personnel kind of a picture of the shortest position to do?
That we well, we opposed gay propositions and I think they approved themselves well. And today, practitioners and nursing lives serve really beneficial in the care and area. But it was quite an issue back then. I think, I don't know whether I could position that it was a protocol that they lose practice. I think they were concerned about what it is. that get out there do this, but they proved it.
All right. Okay, and everything that Doug who occurred and developing our practice program. He told me way back when trying out that little trick that the problem of everybody getting always seen to be solved very readily. Then better they do it. And that's exactly what he this was
Yeah.
talking about at the time.
I think, in medicine for many years, not taught. When I first started on, when I met this inevitable disease, I remember talking about trying to get something in a generalist. Everything was going to specialist. And I remember one of the board members said, "We have a generalist. Go ahead." I said, "Well, where is it?" Well, we have Oysters, who comes over every afternoon at 5 o'clock. He's a class of medical ethics, and that was supposed to be general medicine. But Hiram, who was a professor of urology and psychiatry, he only here, it was easy to medicine program started with him as chairman, he's on the job before. And we'll have more specialists than more generalists, and I believe one issue is going to bring around.
That probably will one day.
Also.
Bill. What have you done board of trustees?
Since 1960, I think the budget first year on New York State was $1 million. The total combined revenue budget at the Med University now is about $660 million. So that has not been on it.
Grown.
It has grown. 60.
Well, you think maybe did you better say what you most about it? What do you think might have been a highlight or thing that you most proud of during that time? Is anything general or civic?
Well,
Like that?
Well, I think the trust of general education, health education, all within the complete fruition. It was born because I did work. I think the organization was improved during that year by being, more expertise. I served after president as 2 years treasurer, which was very beneficial. I know a lot, Persia particularly, we didn't have funds to do things we really wanted. It's got to get views up,
Kind of hard to get you right. Well, during term, I believe we did more membership.
Yeah. But I think part of that was business to cancer.
Yeah. It was membership, yesterday, so at that time.
Yeah. Well, activity, organizations get together to have a side factor, and I think the approach of government as it began and focused on the need of being all united, always fighting better quality care.
Okay. Read one thing to you, if you would think of it as a date. Something that you said back in 1980, one of those pages. Now, a goal of care, medical care, for all who need it to be at the lowest possible cost, without sacrificing services or education or quality of care.
So he
That's changed. That's
so that still have that.
Right.
That's the whole that has been fulfilled.
It's all work towards a thing else I think of your parents wanted to tell me about it. Did you did or cloud or something cool?
Well, back then administration was what happened with the political field with the school. I'm really glad I was lost on that. It's population the whole benefited from having a position. The opposition from the fact that the link position to what positions rather than others. It's worked very well in the state.
Your years of you haven't slowed down that good association. I would probably picked up more than you had.
I was on last year, and this surprise, and I got the award and Chris was a complete surprise, and that was a great honor.
That was nice. So you got to practice medicine.
Well, my application in vocations in medicine has been my political. I'm fortunate enough to live in a rural area where we have active properties, and I have a lot of play official in medicine and I still do some medicine, here quality habit, and right now chair of our industrial board in the county, and working to now distributing doctors trying to get a clinic area. So it's probably best. I guess the line will come.
Well, involved, couple areas of amendment, in nursing home.
Nursing home, nursing home there. We also have started in the area for resident students to rotate to. This clinic was, when I was on the day, came on in, I'm very glad I used to do that. And I believe that they didn't serve at the time as type of a model expand, whereby the people do generous and have part of the thing rural area in a setting. So that's how this is open here.
So then, hospice unit,
Yeah, we've started a hospital there. That is the system we just had in the community. Rural people tend to take care of their own more than they have there because of the family. So we have need so much. It's been very gentle and very helpful. Just as last year.
all right. In your time, as a state association, or during his time, in a specific position, I mentioned it, or very healthy, or whether you want to.
Well, I really looked to, I think everybody ever had any dealings that helped me more than I could then. But in politics in medicine, I got the West and West Ham, and John Hall, I've always held as a principal, and he's very helpfully always seen him. But those two stand out because I had a lot of activities with John with the Medical Association. And to its fairness, I live in a community in 5 or 6 sectors, and it's kind of hard to get a South Carolina Association with somebody who won with 200, and with Ellen Brown.
I appreciate it. But it's understandable how you thought got along. All right, anybody should know, a few years ago, you were sitting on that.
Here we were. There is a issue among us, I say now.
Okay. I didn't know with any particular like will help, I'm not missing one, okay.
Yeah. Well, none really particularly. Only flash I had with a difference of opinion was to do with the West. No. I should have known how to hold the water to drain. But he was a man. Still had his that's going.
We were sort of, but how do you feel about major issues facing Mass State? I think we've talked about it throughout sort of, or some of that.
Well, I think along, in medicine, I think that's more to be independent because you don't want to be in the quality care of the nation. And we felt that the government would handicap for ability to do, because in history, there's been some likely medicine occurred that was a concern for all of us physicians. But what happened in medicine over the years, I think economics is going to get that we will have to practice different medicine. And we have to be curtailing of revenue, curtailing a lot of procedures in now. We'll be able to take care of ourselves through education, to change our lifestyle. Just beyond managed care being one of those. I believe that educating us of physicians will change that a lot of that change instead of to get that distribution correct. But the overall advancement will happen in the future, electronic-wise, communications, audio-visual, just as I hope with someone together. We're working on a project between our community and electricity for two-way audio-visual so that we have the experts of some of the specialties, by service in rural communities. And that certainly will be a real plus for now distribution of physicians. But then I come to see what's being done in research. The cell and DNA and what. I did a picture for medical care along the absence of age, rapid as we do. All of this is huge. Like be able to come 50 years to see what it does.
That's interesting.
There's so many new avenues and new approaches. And when we look back and realize how much is in your lifetime. Before 1930, we had very specific drugs. Everything is medicine now. It's almost as we've had much in medicine, 78, and since the price really, and it's the ongoing, we're just doing things now.
Been a while since I've heard that. Sorry, Marshall,
Yeah. It should be medicine.
So you're out about Madison.
Oh, it'll be the future, you're right.
Was there anything to go back to?
No, I wish I wrote notes there. I'll spend my trip home this afternoon about what I should have said, you know?
The people's been talking to you, and I'm afraid of more discussion of you, but maybe all right. And I want to thank the association for me, and appreciate working with us. Pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Be here this afternoon, meeting. And I think you're an excellent facility interviewer.